Before I start telling the story, let me introduce myself. My name is Dexter, and I'm currently playing football for the Coastal Carolina Conchantillers. Growing up, I was a huge fan of pro wrestling, and I was always begging for my parents to let me stay up late to watch the Monday Night Raw. Yes, I know wrestling is mostly fake, but I never really cared. I just wanted to see my favorite wrestler, Kane, chokeslam everyone from Cold Stone to meat. Recently, with the class in the football games, I have been trouble keeping up with both Raw and SmackDown. The other things that I had only to do to low to moderate was the amount of money, so I can only watch 2 or 3 pay-per-view years per year. I usually just stick watching to my old WWF DVDs when I can, except for one. Last May, I was walking around campus when I passed by a pro wrestling store. I had passed that same lot a few days ago, and it was unoccupied, and it still had the for rent sign. For those who might be significant workers, I thought to myself. Shrugging, I walked inside. As I walked inside, a blast of air conditioning welcomed me. Thank God, too. South Carolina isn't exactly the coolest place in the country. Scanning the shelves, I spotted action figures, signed merch, and DVDs. I hopped over to the DVD shelf and went through its contents. A couple of WrestleMania, a Jeff Hardy one, and a complete In Your House box set. If you're not a wrestling fan, Your House was a pay-per-view series that was held in the months of the WWF didn't have in major PPV. Being from Memphis, I was able to get to St. Valentine's Day Massacre event when I was 8, and I wasn't even nosebleed seats. I was on 4 rows from the ring. I snatched a box set and an Eddie Guerrero figure and a Monster Energy drink from the vending machine. Put the loot on my counter. I expected the IYH collection worth a fortune, but nope, it was only $25. I didn't really think much of it, and I rode my skateboard back to my dorm. When I got home, I popped the CD into my PlayStation 3, and the menu came up, which had the IYH logo and the collection of shots from the events. There were 4 options: select event, random event, options, and extras. I clicked out the options menu. It was nothing special, just languages, subtitles, display, and all that junk. I don't even remember much from the extras menu. I saw a promo for WrestleMania 2000. Maybe, by the way, the DVD was apparently released in summer of 1999. I decided to get this show on the road and went to select event. It took me to a list of Your House PPVs, and all 28 of them. I scrolled through, and sure enough, everything from the first IYH to Backlash was there. Part of my mind wanted to go further for some reason, to see if there were any more options. There were. Right on the screen was 29 Armageddon in Your House. As clear as day, the title itself didn't exactly strike me as the odd, but there were the IYH events that later became yearly PPVs. Like The Unforgiven, the first Armageddon was held in December of 1999. But wait, 29? As far as my extensive knowledge went, there were only 28 IYH shows. I decided to select it. I was brought to another screen. The description says Armageddon took place in June 6, 1999 in Charleston, South Carolina. I select the match select option. There were only 2 matches. The first was the 20-man over top of the rope battle royale, and the second was Kane versus Mankind with an Infernal match. Saving the best for last, I chose the battle royale. Billy Gunn won, if you are the few who cares. After that, I selected Kane versus Mankind, and both wrestlers made their entrances, although I think Kane's music was a bit different. Lower pitch, maybe? When both were in the ring, the fire around the canvas was lit, and the match was on its underway. As far as I remember, the match was pretty normal. Kane would get in a few hits. Mankind would just get a few days, and they'd both hit their finishers sometime during the match. I sat myself pretty successful and I have found a lost WWF event. Still, why would Mr. McMahon remove all traces from the promote's history? I was about to find out. Kane had been sitting in a ton of momentum and grabbed Mankind by a chokehold, knowing that full well it was coming next. I smiled like I was 10 years old all over again. The big red monster lifted the Mankind up in the air and tossed him into the flames. The bell rang and Kane had won the match. Then the screaming began. Horrible, agonizing, ear-raping screaming that I can never be described as a banshee's wail in reverse. The camera panned over to Mankind, and what I saw was terrifying. Now, before I explain this scene, I am rather immune to gore and disturbing imagery. I dedicated to what I have written a few creepypastas, but this is just above it all. Mankind was on fire and standard in an end to infernal match, right? That's how you win, after all. This is different. You could clearly see his skin melting off, showing muscle and even bone in some spots. His hair was signed, and all of his lights in the arena were turned off. The flames still burned bright. This went on and on and on. Finally, Jim Ross ran over to the fire extinguisher and sprayed Mankind. Charred his body laid there, not moving an inch. Paramedics arrived and took him out of the arena. The television cut to black and took me back to the main menu. Now being a wrestling connoisseur, I haven't acknowledged I was legit and was probably a kayfabe, but this was legit. There was no way, especially in 1999, such a horrendous thing burning be fake like on live television. Hell, I don't even know if that's possible now. I couldn't get the image of Mankind out of my brain. I hopped over to my computer and made a thread about it on a woo, and as quick as I could, one person knew what I was talking about. He said that Mankind wasn't originally Mick Foley. The character was portraying another unknown wrestler who had died after an infernal match. The PPV was never to be aired again or referred to, and Mick Foley was brought to replace Mankind's original wrestler Foley. However, had always been the Cactus Jack and Dude Love. Mankind was called for the third face of Foley because of the other wrestler's striking resemblance to Mick. The next morning, I went over to the wrestling store to ask the manager about the DVD. Surprisingly, the place was open on Memorial Day. The manager said he found the DVD on the black market, and he thought it would be a perfect fix for collectors. I haven't touched that disc since. Well, my pretties, that was WWF Canceled in Your Own House PPV. A wrestling lost episode creepypasta written by JimmyTheKeybladeWielder. My final thoughts on the story? Pretty good pasta, actually. I actually really find this to be, quite amazing. Okay, I mean, I've heard this story from Dave the Useless. I do remember a couple people I know actually narrated this story, and they actually said it was actually quite interesting and good. I mean, the fact about, when, the original actor from Mick Foley or something, or, getting burned, I mean, that's pretty messed up, to be honest, if I gotta be fair. That's pretty messed up. I mean, I've heard and seen messed up stuff before. Now, I just want to say I'm not a fan of wrestling. I never really got into it. Even when I was younger, I never really got into it. But I could definitely say this story was definitely a pretty good one. Because, I mean, I'm surprised that this story was pretty good. The not only because the grammar and the sentence structuring and the way the story was structured out was good, readable in the sense, but it's amazing how the author explained how the original Mankind was replaced with Foley was especially clever. I mean, I can honestly see Vince wiping this from existence. I know he did with Chris Bennett's death in 2009, but he just kept the show going when Owen Hart died over the edge of 1999. I still find this one to be a pretty amazing story. I mean, the fact that it honestly was pretty amazing. Now, I mean, there are some people that manage to say they like the story. I honestly really found the concept to be pretty good. I mean, even though I'm not a wrestling fan, I definitely have to say it's actually pretty good. Because I honestly really like this. It does have an interesting concept, but it kind of does make no sense since when if casual wrestling fans knew that Foley was always Mankind. I mean, to have it say that a different unknown guy played the character till that death, that's a huge bump on Mankind that took in hell for a cell match. I mean, yeah, it just didn't make sense at times. That's just all I have to really say. It just didn't really make any sense. I do say that it's a pretty awesome concept. I do find this story to be enjoyable. I mean, I'm surprised I never actually checked out this story till now. So, this story was definitely a interesting concept. I mean, it does have somewhat of a pretty good concept for what this is. I do find the story to be, pretty good, especially with the whole concept of its own self. Now, I definitely gotta say, despite the fact that I'm not a fan of wrestling, I still find this story to be quite good. I mean, especially for people who like wrestling, you guys might find this story to be, interesting in a sense. So, I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, I'm just gonna sit here and just say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. It's a great story. It does have a really interesting concept. It's pretty interesting, especially with the whole concept and, of how it went out and all that. But I could definitely say this story, honestly, it was confusing at times, and there were times of the story that it did not make sense. And I know it had a little bit of cliches, but I still find this story to be, rather enjoyable in a sense. That might be just me, but maybe you guys might have, something, what you guys think. So, anyways, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to state and leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload. And as always, I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out.